getting queens into colonies is something I do with caution, and I think anyone else who does it should be very cautious, because you need to know the state of the colony. So this morning I'm introducing some virgin queens, which are here. They're all hatched out, they're well alive, they're moving around nicely, and they're not marked. That's just only because I haven't time. Normally I do mark my virgin queens when they go in. So you need to think about the state of the colony that this virgin queen is going into. For me, I like to have my colonies hopelessly queenless. So very often I will make up nukes, just like the ones you can see over there. And I will go and cut out the queen cells about 4 days later, and then when the bees know they're hopelessly queenless, then they accept a virgin better. I also do the same when I'm putting cells in, but I do tend to err on the side of introducing live virgins, probably because I enjoy the fact that I see a live virgin going in and I know the colony's got only that to accept. Now I know that's not all what it's cracked up to be, and loads of people have different ways of introducing it. There's nothing wrong at all with introducing a cell that's got a protector around it just for safety. I mean, I've been to apiaries where they don't use any cell protection, but our general underlying genetics can be a bit iffy, and I like to err on the side of caution and just introduce queens that are alive and running, so they kind of hit the ground running, and I like to see a nice running virgin running around the colony, and you can see if there's any aggression. So what I do basically is I lift out a frame, I check for queen cells first, lift out a frame, because sometimes they do make further queen cells. I lift out a frame and then I put the frame on its side, let the bees settle for a minute, then I just open the cap and I let the virgin run on and I watch her. Now straight away, if there's any aggression, what I do is I give them a little bit of smoke, because when you smoke it seems to cover everything in like obviously in carbon, but to me that seems to mask everything. And then I smoke inside the colony, but not a lot, just a little bit. You don't want to panic them, you don't want to stress them, because stress causes them to kill other bees as well. They go around, run around the colony looking for things to kill if there's guard bees there, and if you've got a lot more worker bees than you have nurse bees. So these nukes, for example, these are all made up yesterday with mostly nurse bees, because when I make them up I tend to make them up in the middle of the day when the main forager bees are flying, and I'm taking out the brood section and taking brood away with nurse bees on it already. So you tend to get mostly nurse bees. And also when you fragment a colony, they generally go into panic mode and they do become less aggressive. They do become more acceptable to a new queen, because they know they've got no choice. They need to start again. It's their natural reboot kind of system. It's what they do. So after I've introduced that virgin onto the frame, I then basically wait a few seconds, see what's happening, and sometimes the queen comes out and immediately what she wants to do is kill anything. She's got that split-second instinct. Literally for 4 or 5 seconds she rushes out and she wants to kill stuff. She might even try stinging brood. But that's what I observe, and I can only go by what I observe. But then literally within 10-15 seconds she changes her manner. She often sticks her head straight into a cell, has a drink of honey, and then suddenly she's different. She changes her manner. She just has, it's almost like she kind of calms down, and then I just literally observe her, see what she's doing. She wanders off, and if you see other bees literally walking over her, you're fine. If you see bees curling their asses around to try and sting her, that's when you need to blow a little bit more smoke, and often you see that. And the time you'll see that is when you've got robbing going on. Because when you've got robbing going on, introducing queens when there's robbing going on in an apiary is just a lethal combination. They will kill everything because the bees are on guard. So trying to requeen colonies with live virgins during a dearth is more difficult, obviously, because there's more robbing going on. That's when you need to look at pushing cages or cages with a candy plug. And that for us is actually a lot easier, because that time of year we have more mated queens. So this is just virgins. And this is what I like to do when I'm making new colonies, because the bees are so confused. They've just been split up from a big colony. They've got no queen that's in charge. There's a bit of disorder in the colony. There's more nurse bees than anything else, because you've just broken down that colony in the middle of the day, as I said before, and you're introducing a running virgin. And I think that combination works really well. And it works well for us. So all I'm saying is you need to know the state of your bees. You need to know the state of your colonies all the time to be able to get successful queen introduction. And I know beekeepers that do direct introduction. They'll take a queen from a nuke yard, and in the same yard they've got a colony that needs requeening. They'll squash one old queen, put in a new one. That's acceptable because you're taking a queen that's laying and replacing it with a queen that's laying. And obviously you know your bees in that case, and you know what you're doing. But you just must be aware, you must learn your introduction. And it's taken me, I think, 3 or 4 years to get a kind of system that works for me. So what if I told you to do something or recommended something, it may not work for you at all. You have to try it yourself. And there's no hard and fast rule, but for me, I prefer the direct virgin introduction. If you have cells, they work great, but your cells have to be absolutely spot on and correctly timed. So they're all alive when they're going in, and you have to look through each cell. I just find for me with the live virgin method, it's less hassle because you've got the virgins can stay alive overlapping more, if you know what I mean. You've got that 5, 6, 7 days if you really need to leave it that long before you put the virgins in once they hatch. I prefer to get them in the same day they hatch, but it gives you more flexibility. If you're going on the cells, your timing is completely fixed. That's what you have to do. And I agree, that's probably the most natural thing, is a queen to be born into a colony that's hopelessly queenless. Because don't forget, if you cut out queen cells, the bees are expecting that queen to be born, and at that time that they've seen the cells, they're expecting to see a virgin kicking around. So it's the most natural thing. But if you introduce a virgin, I argue it's the same thing. So I tend to do that method, but there's loads of methods and everyone has their own ideas, so you do what's right for you. But for me, I do prefer the direct virgin way. So obviously one of the ways to make sure the colony is completely as stress-free as possible is feed it. So you can see I've got a feeder on, but this hasn't had a queen yet, but they're probably drawing up queen cells, and they're feeding, they're doing their reboot, they're just starting again from scratch like bees do terrifically well. You really must look at when you're introducing. Don't introduce in a dearth at the middle of the day when the sun's at its highest and its hottest. If you're trying to introduce a live virgin, do it in the morning, for instance, first thing when it's calm and quiet and there's no bees running. The bees are calmer then. Do it when you've fed the colony. It makes the bees better and happier. I've been feeding all my colonies this last couple of weeks because we've got a slight dearth on now before our main chestnut and nectar flow. Up there you'll see just chestnut all around, and that's just about to come into flower, and it's going to be absolute mayhem in about 3 weeks, but it's good because the bees will all be happy, and that's a good time to introduce any flow you've got running. It keeps the bees calm, it stops the robbing, stops them getting hacked off by other stealers or robbing out the hives. Use the environment around you to the best of your ability to get better acceptance. So here's this nice little colony. They've got plenty of food already, so they're even on this frame. I put a lot of bees in this one. And I think they're even drawing up this one. Let's have a look. Yeah, they've just drawn that up over, or starting to draw it up and fill it with nectar. So that's good. So that's what happens when you're rushing and you weren't expecting your queen to go into was in your mini plus frames to go along into the main colony you're taking to make a nuke with. But hey ho, it happens. So I've opened this colony, it's full of eggs. She's been laying up overnight. She's a bit of an old queen, I think, but she'll go into a nuke, another nuke that I'm trying to requeen anyway, so that's fine. But I'll make this hopelessly queenless now, then they'll accept a virgin in a couple of hours when they know she's gone. See, that's how you hold a queen. You can hold it by the thorax and you leave the abdomen free. Absolutely no problem at all with that. You can walk around the apiary, you can do whatever you need to. I prefer to put her in a queen clip until I'm ready, and then when she's in a queen clip you can relax. But occasionally they get out the queen clips, you've got to be careful. Often I just use a cell cage, but she's going to go under a pushing cage in those hives over there because I need to requeen those as well. So I've got a pushing cage in my truck luckily, and she'll go in that, but she's fine like that. She can't move. I've got her safe. This will then suddenly realise it's queenless and need another virgin, or they'll start drawing cells. It's all part of what you should be aware of. You should know what to look for when you're going in each colony. This is full of eggs, you couldn't see it, but she's only laid that almost overnight. It's incredible. I like her in the queen clip, gives her a bit more freedom. I can mark her now as well and get her under pushing cage and she'll be accepted, and that's another one marked. I should have marked her last year, but sometimes you just don't have the time to do everything. Busy, busy, busy. Look at the size of her though, she's enormous. So here we are, colony 4 days after making up a nuke. You can see we've got queen cells, that one's capped over. full of raw jelly. Another queen cell there. I'll shake the bees off in a minute. You get another queen cell there. These are emergency cells, short little stubby ones that come out of the base. Cut it. Look how flooded they are with raw jelly because I've been feeding this colony. And what we got here, emerging brood. So guess where the queen introduction cage is going to go? On the emerging brood. So that's perfect. There she is. She's now marked. I put a yellow dot queen, marked her with last year's colour because I don't know her age. I'm pretty sure it's last year. It would have been last year's queen. She's now under the cage. She's really big, but she'll shrink down a while probably before these bees. Oh, you can actually see emerging. So there's the bee emerging there, just there, underneath that cage. They'll come out. They'll love her. They'll care for her. She'll come back into lay. And then she'll be accepted. But she'll probably be accepted anyway because I've also removed the chances of them making any new queen because they've got no larvae of the right age now. But that's the best way. You're completely sure then. Don't forget, this is a mated queen that's more valuable. It's not just a virgin. And I'm feeding the colony as well. You see? There they are. There's almost enough feed there now for ages. So the frames are well flooded with nectar, as you probably saw when I was cutting out those cells. But that's ready now. 4 days time I come back and let her out and she'll just walk off and everything will be fine. I'll just puff a little bit of smoke on her, just to mask her from the rest. And I'll make them all move, not much, just a little bit. Off she goes, she's running now, that's perfect. Then lift up the frame, just drop it back in, really slowly and carefully. And now she's been accepted. Leave the colony alone, keep it fed. She'll come into lay when she goes off and mates. Weather like this, she should be mating in 4 or 5 days. And then we can harvest in 21 days. The problem we have here is our colonies get so strong so quickly, you have to actually literally shake out bees or we just divide them again. We'll cut that box in half, that mini plus system. We take 3 frames out and put the 3 frames in another colony because it's the time of year to do that. Because all they're doing is just laying. So you've got to keep on top of that brood, and the flow's so strong, they're filling it full of honey, which is brilliant. Don't get me wrong, we're absolutely thrilled with it. But it's just a lot of work because if you want maximum number of queens ready for the later in the season, you have to work your socks off now to get those colonies split and to get more queens ready and mated. And that's how it all works. Push, push, push the whole time. It's a race. The clock is ticking. It will soon be the end of August, and it will soon be the end of it'll soon be the end of the flow and the end of our mating season. There we are, another one in. Been licked by the bees already. Got a head in the cell, having a drink. Cleaning her a bit. Off she goes. That's what you want. No problems. So she's trying to sting the brood there, but then she stops. She's having a bit of a feel around. She's just getting herself sorted out. She's going about her way now. Oh, she goes running. It's what you want. She's onto the honey. No problems at all there. Little smoke. And then back she'll go down underneath.
see me rolling, they hate it, patrolling and trying to catch me riding.